This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good morning. This is FRE06 2019 facility plan meeting with the State Construction Department, and we'll introduce ourselves first. My name is Troy Decker in planning. My role in planning is quality control for these facility plans to make sure that we meet all the legal requirements per state statute, rules and regs, those kinds of things, and make sure that our information is adequate for preparing for budgets going into the next budget request to the commission, and that's my role.
So I'm Charlie Kaufman. I do all the reports and a lot of the data for the department and preparing every needful report that needs to go in there.
I'm Raj Dhami. I help JJ, the CFO here, with AIM the database, accounting analysis, and I kind of just help everybody out here with all the database help they need.
Amber Leach with planning. My role is to work with the districts, working on their documentation and getting prepared for this facility plan meeting.
Good morning, my name is Brandon Penny. My role with the team is to work through the facility plans to identify the needs in construction projects and then present those to different legislative bodies, the commission, select committee, the governor, JAC, and follow it through the legislature.
I'm Steve McDonald. I'm the new regional project manager for the northwest part of the state. I look forward to working with you guys.
Go ahead, school district.
This is Linda Evans. I'm the business manager. You want to know everything I do? Just kidding. I do most of the, for facilities, the finance side of it, and entering the work orders into AIM and uploading invoices and component funding and those things.
I'm Matt Concilio, the facility supervisor for the Wind River School District.
All right, we understand the superintendent will not be joining us today, so that's good. That's okay. So with that, then usually Paul Severson on our side usually joins us, and I'll just highlight that yellow. He may step in here in a few minutes.
He's actually not here today.
Okay, in that case, I will remove him. So, and let's see, Raj, your position again, Raj, is?
Counting now, or analyst.
Analyst. R-A-G and then
D-H-A-M-I. D-H-A-M-I.
Great, thank you. All right, so with that then, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the video camera now to make sure we don't have any streaming issues, and we'll kind of roll through this facility plan this morning. So thanks again for joining us. This is an important part of the yearly process of facility planning with each district. So appreciate you working with Amber to get this ready. So one of the things that we always ask school districts to do, and that is check all their data and stuff. But one of the things that we've gotten really good at, Charlie specifically, is just working with the GIS websites and stuff, and making sure that we have some good data and know what you own and what you don't own, and just have some visuals. So those are good here. By the way, these facility plans can be requested by legislators, the governor's office at times, and stuff like that. So what we try to do is make this holistic enough so that anybody who gets this, who's not familiar with the whole of the district and stuff, can go through this and have a pretty succinct understanding of the district and with regard to facility planning itself. And so that's why we spend so much time on these. So the district has reviewed your acreages. These are important. We thank you for that. They do impact your block grant for groundskeeper allowances. So thanks for doing that. And I just put AIM database is up to date. Property profiles, you've reviewed the property profiles and verify accuracy. These can affect your major maintenance and WDE operations and maintenance payments themselves. So these are important to have correct.
So one thing I do want to know for the property profiles, so Linda and Matt, the square footage for the link is not in there yet on Wind River Elementary School. We're still waiting on the final documentation from FEA. for those drawings and to get added to the square footage. So that square footage will change once everything's finalized.
Okay.
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 And then you've also reviewed enhancements. Appreciate that because those can have an impact on major maintenance as well. And we do report these each year to the select committee.
So I have a question on enhancements. Where we had done that other preschool classroom before, now it's an actual classroom. But now we have the new preschool classroom that's an enhancement. Can the other one, what happens to the old preschool classroom that's a regular classroom now?
If
an enhancement?
Right, so it remains an enhancement until there's something that triggers it to become part of the adequacy standards and be brought into the adequacy standards. So for instance, if your capacity was driving near 100%, around 100%, and it was a non-construction alternative to add that in, and actually the state of Wyoming take responsibility for the cost of that classroom, for maintaining, replacing in the future, whatever it is, then that would be brought in and that would become a non-enhancement. But until something drives adequacy standards to validate or to require that in some non-construction alternative, it will remain as an enhancement per the district's choice in the past.
Okay.
Questions on that? Good.
That makes sense.
All right. I did say FEA did reassess the elementary school. AIM database will be updated in the near future. And then you guys, what sounds like you guys will be submitting a final enhancement acknowledgement form with final costs so that we can update and make sure that we've got
The classrooms, right?
classrooms correct. Linda, when do you think you're going to be able to do that? And you close out all the invoicing and know all the costs for that?
Oh, we finalized that last spring, so we already have the final cost. So I sent back the signed enhancement form about 5 minutes ago to Amber.
Okay. So I'll say district has submitted.
Yes. Has submitted.
Okay.
Assuming we filled it out correctly.
So what I'm going to do is forward it on to both Paul and Steve here as your new project manager so that they can follow up on it being the enhancement. But I'm just briefly going through it just briefly right now to see if I see anything.
Amber, this is Paul Severson. I've joined the meeting.
Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
Paul, did you catch that whole discussion on the enhancement that they finished last spring, that they've got documentation to us in email?
I heard the end of it there, so I think I got the general gist of it, yeah.
Okay, Paul, we've also added you to the attendee list. Thank you for introducing yourself as you came on. Okay, anything else on property profiles? So let's go down to district appropriations update. We have two of them here for 2769, which is your Wind River Middle School, High School heating and cooling system. And then I guess the same thing with regard to roof replacement at Wind River. And so phase one complete on the 2769 project, but phase to be complete. So you got a second phase that needs to be completed, it looks like. And then the 2822 is going to be completed as part of the above second phase of the first project. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just said that these two will remain open until completion projects, and we will not revert funds. We'll just revisit this next year.
Okay.
Okay.
I am.
Okay, so security projects, I'll turn that over to our PM now.
Hi guys, this is Steve McDonald again. In talking about security, I think the things we wanted to hit on, just a reminder that in 2014, the legislature appropriated $9 million in security monies to divvy out between the districts. They identified 8 factors that they specifically tied that appropriation money to. Those are the ones you see on the board now. So if we can kind of scroll down and see where you're at there. It looks like you guys have actually done quite a number of security projects with that money, so we appreciate that. You're in good shape. Some districts are not aware that they even have that money, which we don't understand that, but it seems like you guys understand that you have it and you've been using it and you're in good shape there. One thing to note is that there's a current budget request in the legislature to appropriate an additional $4.9 million to that security money. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but that new $4.9 million will open up to where you can spend that on any of the 20 identified security features. So there's a little bit more freedom with that new $4.9 million. The decision actually will be made and stamped in the next legislative session next year. So that's just to let you know that is something that is coming up. There's a possibility to receive some more of that kind of funding with a little bit more freedom added to how you use it. But again, we appreciate you guys using that, and I'm willing to work with you. Looks like you have a pot of money left there, so if you have any ideas, we can work together on that. Moving down to the 10% security major maintenance, the legislature made a decision a couple of years back to allow you to use 10% major maintenance money on security projects. Again, these projects are not tied to the aid that they stipulated, but there's a little more freedom with these projects. There was some enhanced funding or some additional funding laid out for fiscal 2017 and 18. One thing that we need to point out and let you know is that it's looking like right now that money is not going to be continuing funding stream in the future. So one thing we need to be real careful about with your 10% security balance there is that we do not overexpend the amount that you have remaining, because there's no additional funding guarantee on that beyond the 2018. And if we get into a point where we get those balances out of whack and we overspend what's in there, we're gonna have to use other district monies to make that account whole. So again, it looks like you guys have been real good with your security money. You've spent a lot of it. We appreciate that. You have a little bit left, so let's make sure that together we keep an eye on that 10% major maintenance money and don't go over that, with again the knowledge that possibly next year an additional funding mechanism will be put in place to give you guys some more security money. With you guys having spent as much as you have and having small balances, I'll just point out that there are other areas where you can find funding for security if you want to do some additional stuff and you don't have the funding in place. Homeland Security funding, Department of Justice funding, there are grants in place that you guys certainly should take advantage of if you have other ideas in place. Just looking at your district notes, a secured vestibule, changing the exterior door controls at all locations. Is that something that has already been done?
No, those are things we want to do.
Okay. Have you gone out to quotes and got some price ideas on those?
No, not yet. We're starting to work in the process of it. We need to work over the door controls.
Okay. Well, one thing that you are able to do with that security money is you are able to move money between accounts. I see that you have a $9,000 budget in your secured vestibule account. Then you have a couple of other accounts, your maintenance, your control, and your visitor management system. It is possible to move monies from those other two to the secured vestibule if you need additional funding for that. That's just something that you'll work through me and I'll work through Paul. We can talk after the meeting on how those mechanisms work, but that's an idea that's out there for you.
Okay.
And that's about all I have unless Paul has anything to add.
I do not have anything else to add.
So Linda, just on your 10% security balance there, that 16,790.57, that was of June 30th of this last year, as reported in the 680. Have you guys spent any additional since then?
No.
Okay, and then how are you keeping, are you internally, I assume you're keeping balance, that you're tracking that independently from your major maintenance, or as part of your major maintenance dollars, you're tracking that independently, or is it just pretty well you're just, as it was reported on the 680, that's what the balance is and you just move forward?
Mostly on the 680, but also from the invoices that are, the work orders that have been put in with the 10% money attached.
Okay. And then just one correction, and this is not to dog Steve, I know he's new here and he's really picking up really quick, that right now there is no way to, if you overdraw that 10% security, number one is you don't have any legislative approval to do so, so you want to be real careful on that. And number two is we have no mechanism by which to make that account whole. It's still major maintenance account and the balance is the balance. But if you overdraw that category, there's no legal way that we can reimburse or make that 10% securities whole. You would be in the negative. And that would be reportable. I don't know if we would report it, but it would be reportable to the legislature. So just watch that number and be careful on that one.
So can we supplement that though with major maintenance money for a project?
You betcha. Yeah. As long as it qualifies. As long as it qualifies.
890, I could do $100 out of major maintenance.
Your regular major maintenance can supplement security needs as long as it qualifies for regular major maintenance. So it has to meet the major maintenance definition.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So if it's existing locks and you replace them, you don't have to use categorize as 10% security. You can use that as regular major maintenance.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you guys want to be real careful with that, and you never know. You know, this 10% security. I mean, it's a great opportunity for you because things come out that when it was legislatively approved in session law, they kind of gave a lot of freedom on that, and it qualifies for things that don't even qualify as major maintenance definition for security. So and they've done all kinds of stuff with it. So just know that it's a pretty flexible account. And try to, if you want, try to conserve it if you so choose and use your regular major maintenance on things that actually qualify but yet meet security needs.
Gotcha.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Capacity. Looking at your capacity, guys, and we were talking about capacity and when, can an enhancement, a passing enhancement, and for a classroom or for a preschool that's no longer being used for that, something different, it does stay an enhancement until something would drive it to be brought into the adequacy standards. You guys are looking really good on your capacity in one way, and not so good on the other because the number of students affects your block grant and your money's coming through. And each student's worth approximately, give or take, 15 grand a piece. And the more students you have, the more resources you can have in order to educate those students. So we get that, and but it's nice to know that you've got some growth opportunities here, and hopefully that will happen. So looking at your actual enrollment numbers, and you guys I think are familiar with enrollment projections, but we always look at 10 years in previous data. In order to project out after this point of view, or at this point, 2018. These numbers do come from WDE, So we look at 10 years in arrears. And then all these projections is it's just following a class. So the 2008 kindergarten, advanced to 2009 first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and you can just stair step them right down and follow, and we just call it a survival rate. The number of students that either come in or leave from year to year. And so what it does is it takes these 2 years, and it just kind of takes these survival rates, averages from each of the 10 years, and basically does it in an average. So it's called the average survival rate over here. And you guys, in the last 10 years, with trailing data, you guys have actually picked up, on average, you have 102% survival, which means from kindergarten to first, you're actually gaining students. Notice from first to second, you're staying pretty well even, second to third, and so on. It kind of progresses down through here. This is usually around 7th or 8th grade. There's usually around junior high, there's usually a drop. If there is
There's a little bit of a drop around.
Yeah.
Your big drop you'll see happens typically your sophomore and junior years in high school.
And then this is kind of not, I mean, it's frequented among the districts. There's usually another pick back up from 7th to 8th. And then 9th, you guys, 9th grade are actually picking up even more students, 119%, which I don't know if I haven't seen that higher of one. And then your sophomore year, you drop off. And so obviously Diane knows, you guys know that where your work's cut out for you is retaining students in those last 3 years of their education. And that's your greatest loss of students is your sophomore, junior, and senior years. But overall, as you watch this trend, you guys were near 400 back in the latter 2009, 2010. You kind of started dropping off. And then these last 3 years, you kind of started, or 4 years, I guess, you guys kind of started picking back up. And last 2 years, you've been in the 400s. So I think that's a good pattern. And then it's kind of interesting, you kind of had a bumper crop 2 years ago, 2017, with kindergartners, 41. But when you look across this, if you were to take out that anomaly and look at your averages on the other ones, you're looking at about an average of 26 on an average year, with a larger group last or 2 years ago when your students came in. Any comments on your enrollment projections and your enrollment in general?
Well, I was just going to say that the freshmen, we probably picked some up because Arapahoe and Fort Washakie historically didn't have a high school. But now that they do, I don't know if that number will be as high.
That's it.
Yeah,
So they're coming over to your school.
And those are also the ones that probably drop out towards their senior year.
okay. No, that's a good point. Fort Washakie specifically has that new high school now.
Just barely, yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of their kids before.
And then Arapahoe obviously still has, they're trying to become a unified school district, but still hasn't gotten there. So they're hoping someday. Okay, well, thank you for reviewing that with us, and thank you for clarifying that pattern there. Statewide capacity list, Charlie.
Sure, absolutely. Every year, per our commission's rules and regs, we prepare a statewide capacity list, ranged from high, which is above 100%, medium, between 95 and 100% of capacity, and then low, which is 90 to 95%. And so these are the capacity needs throughout the state. The one thing to note, the biggest change from last year is that the commission decided to return to a restricted capacity in grades kindergarten through third of 16 students in each classroom. And so that really did change a lot of the capacities on a lot of the, change the capacities of every K through 3 school throughout the state. So that makes a big difference on how we look at this data and how everything's being presented now.
So you guys will be up there next year.
Nice.
I just put it down here. District has sufficient capacity for enrolled students at this time. Charter school, you have no charter school, so we're good there. Condition, I think you guys have been around long enough to know we do conditions assessments every 4 years. The actual FCI, the Facility Condition Index number, means something. And it's a measurement of deferred maintenance, and the higher the deferred maintenance, the higher the FCI score. And I think we've explained this enough, don't need to go into it too much. We do have new personnel, district personnel every year coming into districts, and we want to make sure we provide an educational opportunity and make sure we communicate clearly. This is kind of the statewide list for the highest FCI score down. This is just page 1 of that. You're not on that, but you can see that we've got our highest need here and come down. This is about 25, 30 schools, and it's just a representation of the present list, which will no longer be the present list in some ways, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. This is and those were educational buildings. These are ancillary buildings or support facilities. You got your bus garages or your maintenance buildings or your admin buildings that necessarily don't have any education in them. These are those. And here's the top ones. This one's kind of interesting because now that we have limited funds going through to educational facilities and school districts on the facility side, in one sense in capital, but more so in major maintenance. But it's interesting because we're not quite sure how these support facilities, when and if they're going to get capital funds in the near future. So we'll be talking about that a little bit more, but with regard to these, people are taking care of them with major maintenance right now, and will continue to do so unless capital funds come along and are able to be prioritized over educational needs. And then this is just your district as a whole. You guys have outstanding buildings. 0.18 is very, very good. And so you guys are looking really good. You take care of your buildings. We really appreciate you guys taking advantage of those component funds and applying for those and actually getting money and using them. So I think that was smart.
Well, and there are 2 big items that are on their score right now was the HVAC and the roof that they both got funded for. So really 2 big items that will help even improve the condition of the junior high school.
And then here's your support facilities, again, in just outstanding condition. So I just said buildings are in relatively good condition. So we appreciate you taking care of them and using state monies well. And we're glad that state monies are coming through in a way that allow you to continue to do that. You guys update, I don't know which of you did this, but updated the work order status's name, and we really appreciate you doing that. That's an important part of just keeping the database clean. And SCD PM reviewed any submitted major maintenance work orders as part of this process and approved those which qualified. So thank you for doing that. Back to Linda, this is your 680 report. You're very familiar with this, I'm sure. You don't have any 8%, or we would talk about that. That was from one of the first years they only provided 8% statute for enhancements and things that didn't qualify as part of the adequacy standards. You've got some 10% monies, keeping track of that. That's good. But it looks like our 10% ending balance here is a negative 19,000. So
on the other screen, it said we were positive 16,000.
Yeah, that's why I'm. Thank you for saying that.
The 680 didn't bring that balance forward or the new balance in, and so I had to hand correct it last year.
So you got what, 19?
Well, it's right here. This is the number.
That's
a correct number.
790.
He also listed it on
Yeah.
Okay.
their notes.
Did Amber not?
She also worked with JJ on that.
Yeah, something happened in the back end somewhere.
We've never seen this before. Amber's never missed that before.
No, Linda, you and I worked on
there's
this.
a big note. We talked about it. There's a big note.
That's okay. He's just not reading down into the notes where you talked about it.
Right. I have no idea. I have no idea what notes you people are talking about. If we ever find an opportunity to just find one little crack in Amber's armor, we take advantage of it. She does a phenomenal job. We appreciate it. So we do have a discrepancy here, so let's do something here, guys.
Scroll down, you'll see her explanation, Troy, and
Okay,
explain.
hold it. And I'm done having fun with you. Now I'm gonna get serious.
I know, but her notes.
Now we're
will-
getting pictures.
Yeah, that's right. If I go too far, I'm gonna get in trouble, huh?
Linda and I are gonna just turn loose and get this all squared away.
Okay, so in the notes here in just a second, we're going to cover that. And so this is a priority of last year. We usually do the year before major maintenance priorities. And secured vestibule security obviously is very important for you guys. And that was your top priority a year ago as reported on the 680. And then track stadiums and so on. You guys kind of came down through here. And to your lease expenditure of $152. And then this is just a facility by facility breakdown of what you spent in each facility under those categories. So we appreciate you using that as well. And then we have our low condition scores. And it's really important just, and we do give you the opportunity to speak for yourselves. We see that you have a 2 here. You guys, we had to include 3s. Because your condition of your buildings is so good. You do have a few 2s, and those have been completed as far as I can see. I don't see anything that has not been completed on 2s. And then you're kind of trying to continue to work on your 3s and just kind of get ahead so that they don't get down from a fair to a poor condition or a failure condition. And we let school districts speak for themselves here because we do have legislators asking during the committee meetings at times each year, are our districts taking care of their highest needs with major maintenance? And this just lets you speak for yourself. So if someone asks, hey, we want to see Fremont 6's facility plan, how are they doing on their low condition scores? You guys just speak for themselves. So thank you for putting the time in and spending the time to do this so that we can report accurately and let you speak on your own behalf. Here's just a breakdown of what those scores mean. And again, you guys, you've taken care of all your 2s, it looks like. You've got some fairs, and we've included those just to pick on you because, you know, you got to kind of, a winning team has to continue to be challenged as it moves toward the Super Bowl. And then we've got the upcoming facility condition assessment. We're required by state statute to do this every 4 years. You go out, hire a third-party consultant, and you can kind of see in this that we do have a plan coming up. This coming September, we'll put together our scope of services. We'll go through a procurement process. We'll award a contract probably in January of 2020. And then I think the important thing for you guys to do, and that is this training of districts is going to be in April in 2020. And I know that sounds like a long ways away, but it's going to come quick. But, and I don't know if any of you guys did attend in Casper 4 years ago plus our training, but we take the tool and we do a 4-hour meeting in Casper. We invite all the districts, the consultant, third-party consultant that does this is there. And we actually walk through the tools, the importance of the assessment and how it can impact your district with regard to the future. Did you guys or either of you or from the district attend that years ago when we did put that on last time?
No.
Okay. Well, as that comes around, we really highly encourage you to do that. And it also prepares you guys that when those teams show up in person, you guys are able to really provide the best data possible for it to be as accurate as possible. And obviously the legislature wants that because they want an inventory, they want to understand their inventory, and they want to understand their liabilities and what is it costing them taking care. And it also contributes to when we ask for and encourage more major maintenance in this asset preservation mode. We're trying to justify districts need more major maintenance, and Brandon's going to be talking about that in the near future here. But at any rate, by the end of 2020, we're going to have uploaded and validated information in AIM. Everything will be updated with regard to all the work you've done up to this point on the systems, and we'll be rolling forward with a new inventory and a new measurement of how the state's doing with regard to providing money to districts. Do you have a question on that?
I don't,
No.
Okay, could you repeat that back to me in 30 seconds or less?
yeah.
About the, no.
Component projects, you guys are very aware of the blessing of this, and just continue to, you know that you can use major maintenance to prepare for future component projects. We're only doing this every biennium on the front end, and so they were due in September, and now we're ready. We actually have this list that is, it's a pending commission consideration in the future. It will be going in front of the commission in February for as an FYI, not as an action item. And then as we approach the May meeting, we'll start looking at working with the governor's office, working with leadership in the legislature, working obviously through our director. We'll see what kind of interest there is in funding this kind of a list. But anyway, those district personnel who work on this, there's 12 of them that volunteered. They put together the list. And you guys were not on this one this time, but there are quite a few. And you can see there's a total of almost 40 million requested. And this is, again, this is kind of a gap bridge or a bridge between as major maintenance increases. Okay, they're probably going to, I mean, we've been kind of told that they're kind of considering phasing this out potentially in the future. And so we don't know how much longer these component projects will be available. But we do know that there are school districts out there that are using their money wisely. But when it comes to a $600,000, $1 million, $1.5 million, a $2 million project, they would have to save a lot of years in order to do that project with major maintenance, and it would also kind of not allow them to continue on with their asset preservation. So kind of think in advance of needs down the road and get analysis and work with Steve, and he can work through that process as we move forward. But that'll be the next time you can have an opportunity to ask for one, it will be 2020. All right, and here's this famous note here that Amber pointed out, that security count should be the plus, not negative. And so we appreciate you pointing that out. And somewhere along the line, our data is not correct in that spreadsheet. So I just said here, districts continuing to maintain its buildings with available major maintenance funds. Anything else that we need to talk about with regard to major maintenance? You guys are good? Okay.
Yep.
All right, Brandon, legislative review.
Matt, Linda, so the session's going on for 2019. A couple of the bills will go through and affect your guys' facilities. The first one is House Bill 8. It's a major maintenance multiplier. It's up on the House today for committee review. What it does is it would increase the CRV, current replacement value, from 2 to 2.5%. So you would see an increase in your major maintenance payment if this bill takes effect.
Brandon, can I interrupt you just for a second? Yeah. Let me go. And I did this last week. So let me go in and get your updated list that you did. Okay. And then it'll be complete. Sorry about that. I should have went back and updated that.
So during the last year, we went through and did an asset preservation study and presented it. And it had recommendations to increase that. And it showed that at the current rate where districts are funded, they're not actually fully funded to maintain the facilities at the level it should. And it's actually just getting supplemented with those component projects. So the whole intent is to increase it so you're adequately funded, and then they could not appropriate funds for the component projects. Oh, Troy's pulling this up. Another bill that's up is House Bill 52. It's public works and contracts. So if you're going to be doing any FF&E procurement, it states that the architects have to write the specifications for Wyoming resident suppliers. So you might want to keep an eye on that one if you're going to be doing any of that. Procurement amendments, which is House Bill 65. So far, it's all the way through the House. It's on the Senate side. And when we started the state construction department, it said that we had to create policies and procedures for both the school facilities division as well as construction management division. And when we started that process, the statutes were all over the board, and a lot of them are 30, 40 years old. So what this does is it essentially brings the dollar values up to present value of today's dollar. So your bonding requirements would go to 50,000. Currently you're sitting at 7,500 bucks. It's like 31-year-old statute. A&E procurement would be done in 3 phases. 0 to 25, you'd select an architect or an engineering firm. 25 to 50, you would actually get 3 proposals. Nothing formal, but then the formal interviews and all that is 50,000 and above. School district procurement on construction side is in 213110. Currently it's at $25,000. That statute's about 18 to 20 years old. So it's also going to be recommended to be brought up to 50,000. And then advertising is all over the board from 1 week to 4 weeks. So that's been recommended in the bill to just be a standard 2 weeks. So ultimate goal is everything would be set at about $50,000 and 2 weeks of advertisement. So that should increase your procurement processes. Education, major maintenance funding. There's a bill, it's House Bill 78. It's also all the way through the House. And what it does is breaks your quarterly payments up, Linda, into 4 payments. The bill won't take an effect, or the bill would go into effect in July, but the actual quarterly payments will be out 1 year, which will allow you to save up some money so that you can have a little bit more reserves to help with the cash flow.
Okay.
So one of the things in their notes, well, maybe not, but obviously, you guys, like you said, if you're spending down pretty much your major maintenance account, you may have to wait, postpone some projects in order to have that money if you've already prioritized something that costs more than what you're going to get during that next year through quarterly payments.
Yeah, Matt and Linda, I'd work closely once the session's over to sort of look at your balance, see what you got in the hopper for projects going out, and then look at maybe a cash flow analysis to determine, maybe you want to be a little more conservative, hold some projects back, or maybe you got the funds in reserve going forward. But that bill will definitely affect you for the first year until you get on a rhythm of receiving your major maintenance receivables, if it passes. So far, it's got quite a bit of legs. Go ahead.
They were just ignoring.
Okay. House Bill 79, that's just an interfund loan. Doesn't really affect you guys. House Bill 80 is what the CapCon is in, and I'll go through that in a little more detail, what's in that budget or what's in that bill. House Bill 94, indemnification. So there's writing laws on indemnification clauses. So if you guys do contracts with all your major maintenance projects, that would have an effect on you. And what it essentially does is contractors can't indemnify the state. Everybody sort of has to step up to the plate and be responsible for their wrongdoing if there is one. House Bill 108, if you're going to be doing major maintenance and all that, usually there's a 41-day advertisement. And what this would do is instead of posting it in the newspaper, you would post it on your website. So a little bit of a change there. House Bill 152, that's just dealing with civil engineering or civil construction. You got any underground utilities you're going to be working on, your architect will need to follow that new statute. Senate File 49 is about private schools and setting the barriers to entry when you're doing a private school and making sure that they are similar to our design guidelines so that the children have the same opportunities. Senate File 53 is government contracts, so it's language about unions. Linda, you got public records requests on Senate File 57. This is, you got 10 days to get out the public records requests, and if you don't get out in 10 days, then there's perhaps a penalty as great as a felony. That's up today, I believe, on the House side for committee. School safety and security and Senate File 64, WDE, the AG's office, Homeland Security, our department. We would be working with WDE to create guidelines for school security and safety. Professional service procurement on Senate File 74. This is about a preference bill for architects and engineers. So one of the requirements is that 50% of the revenue received by the firm would have to be done with local staff and firms to be considered a resident. Senate Joint Resolution number 1, that has to do with just land exchange at the federal level. Senate File 103, that's the Construction Management Division. They now have to report to the Select Committee, is what that is. So no longer is it the Select Committee of School Facilities, it's the Select Committee of School Facilities and the State Capital Construction. So they'll oversee both of our divisions now. We'll have to report to them. Senate File 105 is procurement pricing. When you do procurement of a professional service provider and architect, you will want to, if this passes, it talks about how much work has been completed by that firm, and as part of the criteria making a decision on keeping it local. And Senate File 103 is also dealing with a constitutional amendment that the school districts would have to pay for all their school construction, no longer paid for by the state.
And that was considered last year, correct? And
Yeah.
it didn't make it through,
It didn't make it.
but there's another run at it here.
Yep, same bill, second try. But instead of Senate file, it should be a Senate or a joint resolution. So it's SJ, I think 103. So I have an error there. But we'll see if it passes. Any questions on the legislature?
No.
Okay.
I was going to ask you on this procurement pricing transparency, how would that be reported?
Yeah, so in 21 or 9/2/1028 through 1032, it talks about the previous ability or previous work awarded to firms. And what this does is it copies that same language, and they're trying to enhance keeping it local. So if you have 3 firms, one of the criteria is you look at firm A, see how much work he has under contract, he or she, within the state. Firm B, how much work they've been awarded, and firm C, and it's one of the requirements in awarding contracts. So if firm A has, $50 million and firm B has nothing, or maybe 200 grand, then you would want to give it. So the intent is to spread the work out throughout the local firm. So I don't know, do you guys try to keep quite a bit of it local around your area, or how do you do your procurement?
Pretty much, I want to say.
I mean, we bid it out for our current project, but we usually just use Plan 1 out of.
Okay, and they're local, so. A couple of the projects going through the bill is in Sweetwater, we have a high school, Satellite High School, and it's got recommendations all the way through. Sheridan 2 has John C. Schiffer's, an alt school. The third one down is a reappropriation of existing funds for a modular. We have a charter school lease in Albany County. The commission has some unanticipated funds. The security projects, as Steve was talking about earlier, when you guys got those 2 appropriations on the 10% for security projects, that was sort of a one-time process. The intent is to not be doing that, because that just really dilutes your major maintenance. Actually fund it through the bill like you see here, and then also increase your major maintenance so that you're fully funded, you're not diluting your major maintenance, and you get capital appropriations for your security needs. So that's what this is for. And then your major maintenance, you may see an uptick in your payment there. As when we ran the calculations, the RS means number was, the cost went up by about $6 and change per square foot. So, and then the last item is a charter school lease here in Laramie 1. So the two that would benefit you guys or have an effect would be the security and the major maintenance. So now, as far as the biennial request, that's what we're preparing for now. Your facilities look like they're in phenomenal shape. I didn't see any requests on the component list that's heading to the commission. So is there anything that we may have missed? But I see you have none at this time, but anything that you can think of?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
So I put down here that the district at this point has no capital requests for the next biennial budget, and we'll just mark that and list it as such. One thing that has changed in the past year, we've had a capacity list, and we showed you that capacity list with the top X, high, medium, and low qualifying percentages. That will no longer be an independent list for legislative consideration according to our updated rules and regs. So what will happen is we'll still keep track of capacity percentages and stuff, but what we'll do is in the past, the capacity list was kind of one source of possible recommendations to the commission, and then the select committee and legislature as a whole eventually. The condition list was an independent one that we considered for recommendations for capital funding. And educational suitability was basically if one of those two drove a project, then educational suitability was dealt with during that capital construction project. So if you're dealing with capacity, we would try to deal with educational suitability simultaneously, and also with condition, try to deal with educational suitability. Now the rules and regs, basically by state statute, we're looking at that, and all three of these are combined into a single score for a building. So yeah, we'll have those lists, but they'll be combined. So 50% of weighting will be for facility condition score. 35% of the weight in that list for each building will be capacity, and it'll probably be a grade configuration capacity according to the grade configurations within the district. And then 15% of the weighting for each building will be educational suitability. We do have a 2010 educational suitability list that has scores on it. That's our most recent. And unless there's some kind of legislative action to change this, we'll most likely be going to the legislature to ask for additional monies to go out, update the suitability list, and then combine all these in a single number or value for each building, and then we'll re-rank them according to these three criteria. So a little bit more complex, and it's going to take, I think it's going to have quite an impact on these. I don't think there's going to be necessarily a direct correlation between, for instance, there may be a school district that is maybe 100, 102% capacity in certain grade configuration, but their buildings are awesome in condition. Well, that weighting for condition is 50%, so it's going to probably bring that capacity need down in a more holistic fashion in that building. And then the educational suitability may be excellent too. So even though they may be over capacity of a single building, they may be farther down on that list because of better facilities and condition and educational suitability. So we'll see how that works, but we're going to figure that out between now and May.
Okay.
All right, unique issues, ideas, concerns. So it looks like here you said replace outdated wire, wireless upgrades, tied to door controls. I think you already talked about that previously just a little bit. Bells, clocks, intercoms, hardware programming, controls. Anything you want to say in addition to that with regard to that goal?
So can we use some of that security money for that? Or does it all have to be major maintenance?
Right, so you're asking on the capital funds up above?
Yeah, either of those security pots of money.
Right, because they still have 19 grand, right? So looking at door controls.
Well,
Manage control system.
yeah, I was just thinking that you had 60, you got $6,000, right? Or 19.
19, right. So there's you got main entry control systems, right? There. What page are we on here?
Are you replacing existing components with just new components, or would this be upgrading and adding new components?
No, just replacing, going from wireless to hardwire.
I believe, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you could use the 10% major maintenance money to do that.
I think they're asking about the capital. Correct. You guys are looking. You guys are looking. Can we use additional capital funds that are available in 19 grand? Did I understand that correctly?
Either one of those securities.
So yes on the 10% major maintenance security, and yes on the 19,000 in capital if it falls under one of those 8 categories. And the building has been assessed and has a dollar amount of value applied to that category, that element. However, and I think we say this, we pointed out the fact that the new legislation coming through will open that 8 elements to 20 elements, the total 20 on that list, and will give you more greater flexibility to address more systems within your security needs. So instead of just these green ones that are 8 there, it would allow you to address any of the top 20 if the assessment identified a need in any of those categories. Is that correct, Ian?
Yes. My concern is the bells, the clocks, and the intercom. I don't know that those particular elements fit into the security capital monies. Now the exterior, the doors would, but in your note down below you listed rewiring the doors, bells, clocks, and intercom. So I'm hesitant to tell you that security capital money could be used for that, but pretty confident that the 10% major maintenance could be.
Paul, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
So does that qualify for the two-way communications or the mass notification systems, potentially?
Potentially, because it may be advanced notifications, but we'd have to see whether or not a deficiency was identified in the assessment that was done in 2015. Because if there's no deficiency identified in that assessment, then capital monies cannot be used.
And Paul, when you say deficiency, you're saying any dollar amount tied to it during the assessment would qualify for movement of money if that legislation is approved, would be just as long as it has a dollar. It doesn't matter how big of a dollar amount, just as long as that element has a dollar amount tied to it that was generated for the past county appropriations. Is that correct?
That is correct. Even if it's $10, you can spend all your money on it if you want to, but it has to be identified in that assessment as a deficiency. You can't create a deficiency yourself. The assessment is the only way that occurs.
All right. Okay, school district. Last words before we close out here. We're pretty well done, but any other unique issues, ideas, or concerns that you'd like to talk about before we close out?
I don't think so.
I'm going to say here if proposed You're probably not watching the screen, are you, Paul? You're driving? So I'm saying
Sorry about that, Troy, and I couldn't get the mute to turn off. No, I'm sitting at my desk here in my home office, so
Okay, so you can see the screen?
I can.
Okay, wonderful. So I just said if the proposed legislation is approved for capital security funds and any element has generated funds, I'll just say security monies may be transferred, or security monies may be used on any of the 20 elements.
That's correct. And I think you probably ought to further identify that the current 8 funded, if they use money and move it from one project to the next, they have to identify that they understand they will not be back funded for that deficiency that they moved the funding from.
And with this new legislation, that wouldn't allow them then to move it over into that, even though they've already, so they're recategorizing or reappropriating monies around. Would that still hold true if this appropriation is approved?
It depends on what the language ultimately ends up being, Troy. I'd be, if I had a crystal ball, I'd tell you, but I don't know how the final language will be identified. But if they go back to identifying funds specifically for specific deficiencies, that one won't be refunded.
Okay. I'm not quite sure how to put that. Previous movement of funds may between elements may limit further movement of funds among, I'm just making it up, already.
You can't backfill again into a previous.
Okay, sounds a lot better. Sounds good.
The point is that the legislature makes the rules. We only use those rules, but at this point, we're only guessing at what they're going to do with it. We think it's a fairly good guess, but we don't know that for sure.
Speak now. I'm doing my best. I'm usually not at a loss for words. But I just said previously redirected security funds may.
I would say would not qualify for backfilling of line they were funded, something like that. Backfilling accounts transferred from or redirected from. How about this? Okay, guys. All right.
Okay, we got a little technical there. Staff, anything else before we close out?
Thank you, Linda, for your hard work.
Thank you, Amber.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. I've appreciated in the past you guys being very gracious and allowing me to come up and look at your facilities, and we'll do that in the future again as a planning team. Look forward to the next visit. We don't know when that is. We try to get through all 48 school districts on about a 3-year cycle, but we'll look for an opportunity to do that in the coming years. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out the meeting. Thanks for attending, and we'll go ahead and update that one legislative report, and we'll push it back out for superintendent's signature. So thanks a lot for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.